The roots, the roots, the roots are on fire. I finished this just in the nick of time. I popped my last viola in my concrete urns, and after I popped them in the concrete urn, the wind started blowing. I was looking around, Penelope was looking around, and out of nowhere the rain just started coming down, and baby, we had to get out of here. So excited to have this spring color in my garden, which, you guys, I've actually been planting out since January, February. This year I'm really feeling the blushes, the pinks, the roses, the creams, the soft blues. The color is so beautiful and elegant. Here we have our viola here. Then we have our dianthus. We have the beautiful foliage from the Gauthera, which contrasts perfectly with this beautiful green foliage, not only in color but also in texture. And then you have the beautiful leaf of the hellebore here. Even our stem is complementing our color scheme. And then you lead right on up to this beautiful delicate bloom of the hellebore, and it's a hit. It's a 100% hit. And what I like about the hellebores is, depending on the positioning of the flower, like this one right here, you can definitely see this is the back of the flower right here. But you can see the color, and this is just all based off of the positioning of the hellebore here. So it's very beautiful. It's elegant, and I love the structure. Also, with the dianthus, one of the beautiful things about using the dianthus, using the Gauthera, using the hellebore, as well as the viola, these can all be planted out into the garden, and they can actually live on as a perennial. But I have certain, I have a vibe in the way that I do things in my garden. Hop over here, because I'm going to take you guys behind the scenes. I'm going to show you guys what the ranunculus are looking like in my garden. And then we're also going to fertilize. And we're also going to do something that I swore I never would do as a young girl. But here I am, using the old tips and tricks that was taught to me as a young girl from my grandmother's garden. Now I'm using them in mine. Come on, you guys, let's head over here. So previously I had some seedlings that toppled out, that fell over when I was in the motion of just working with them. And what we did to mitigate that was I took them out of the soil blocks that they were in, and I put them into these little containers that I like to use. And the purpose of me doing that is because when you have the soil blocks, it is so much harder to keep the soil blocks moist, alive, the way that they need to for successful seedlings if the soil block comes apart, because them being tightly packed is what helps retain the moisture. So keeping that little bitty small square moisture when they had broken apart, it just was not going to be possible. This is a Dusty Miller New Look, and so the point of me putting them in these little blocks would be, so once I figured out what the variety was, then I could take these little blocks and I could separate which seedlings belong to which seedlings. So I do have my New Look Dusty Miller here, and we just had a ton of rain. I finished planting up the window box, and you guys, the wind started kicking up and it started raining, just torrential rain, and so I had to go ahead and abort the mission. And I was actually trying to get everything done before the rain came. I'm going to be working over here with my seedlings here, and we're going to be doing a lot of this. It's been so warm outside that a lot of my seedlings are outside. So what I like to do, and these are my ranunculus, I'm getting ready to fertilize these, but the day before I fertilize, I like to skip the day before watering. I like to fertilize from the bottom, but since these plants were outside, I'm not going to have that as an option, but I am still going to fertilize today instead of waiting a day or two, because I like to keep my seedlings, I like to keep my new baby plants on a schedule. Just like I like to eat, my plants like to eat as well. What I use is fish fertilizer. I also use a seaweed fertilizer as well, depending on what's going on, and I also rotate them out depending on which flower or which plant or which type of crop I'm working with at the time. When I was a little girl, my grandmother used to take fish, you guys, and make her own fish fertilizer, and I swore that I would never ever ever use fish fertilizer in my garden. But you guys, when I tell you it works, it absolutely works. So I don't make my own fish fertilizer like she used to make, because it is a process, and if you guys have a weak stomach, which I do not, then we're just gonna leave it at that. But this fish fertilizer, when I use it, I do like to use it outside because it leaves a smell, but it works very well. So let's shake this up, you guys. And I like to make sure I shake it really, really well. So what I do, and hold on, before we get to the fertilizing, let me show you what all is going on in here, because honey, even though we got our little cake pans, our little aluminum cake pans out here, baby, ain't no pound cake, no caramel cake, no cornbread, no ribs, no, none of that is in these little carryouts here. So you talk about a way to save money in the garden. This is how I save money. Now, I could use the little propagators, and like these right here, these are a 15 cell tray, right? They do have a lid that goes on top of them, and I do use the lids. But when I am sprouting something, you guys, this is my go-to, because these are cheap. You can use them over and over again. And for certain varieties of seedlings, you have to be leery of squirrels. You have to be leery of mice or any type of rodent. So these right here are ranunculus. You guys, look at this. Ooh! Look at that, you guys. Can you guys see that? Okay, so let's dig one out. All right. So baby, look at those roots. The roots, the roots, the roots is on fire. It's really the roof, but You guys, look at that. Okay, so we have some amazing roots already set up. So with your Ranunculus corms, the roots and the greenish that you see, all of that grows out of the top of your Ranunculus corms. So I pre-sprouted these. This is my process that I use for my Ranunculus. So I take a bucket, I use regular water. You can use distilled water, but I just use regular faucet water. I take those, I put those inside of a organza bag. After I have them in an organza bag, I let them soak for about 3 to 3.5 hours. I try to keep it more on the 3 side because I don't want my ranunculus to actually be over soaked, because that can cause rotting. Then I take my soil, I get my soil moist as a sponge. You know how when you dip a sponge in water and you wring it out and you get all of the water out? I put them inside of these aluminum containers, and then I put the lid on top. Once I put the lid on top, I do not water them at all. I make sure I look in on my ranunculus. If there is any corm that is rotted or is starting to grow mold, I just go ahead and I toss it off to the side. It's not worth compromising this entire bed of ranunculus. And you guys, this is not even the best one, okay? So hold on, let me show you another one. The roots are on fire. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and put this lid back on top of here because I want to keep my microclimate intact. Okay. Okay, so now here is a good example. This is about the stage that I take my ranunculus and I bump them up to a 40 count tray. And again, I am going to put my lids back on top because I want to make sure that I ensure my climate. Now, here's the caveat. On days like this, when I'm outside working, I will go ahead and I will remove the lid while I'm outside. But it's about 50 degrees or such, and I am getting ready to move these over to the 40 count trays. Okay, same thing here, full of goodness, you guys. Same thing here. If you have struggled with your ranunculus in the past, from the corm stage into this phase, into actually getting them from corm to flower, you guys, I have videos in the past where I show you guys how I do my ranunculus, and I've been taking you guys along with me. We actually did a video in the winter time where we started some ranunculus, so let me show you something else. So because these are further along, I will leave these off. This one off right now while I'm doing this. Same thing with this one. This one also has success as well. Okay, so we also have success with this ranunculus batch as well. Now I bumped them up in the 40 counts, and I have the lid on there. If it is a nice time of the year, I will bring them outside in the cool weather. I will put the lid on them at night if I leave them outside. And the thing about it is, we have squirrels like nobody's business. So during the nighttime, you want to make sure you keep your ranunculus with some type of protection on them. Typically, you want to keep them somewhere where rodents, squirrels cannot get to them, okay? Then, from there, I will bump up to a 15 count, like right here. And you guys, look at that. All of this water, this is from the storm. So if you have your plants sitting outside and it rains and you have a container up underneath them, you guys, you have to go out there and pour off that excess rainwater, because what will happen is your plants will rot out. They will not like that. Or I will pop them into a 9 count. And it is a little bit more. That's how I drain the 9 count. But I love the 9 count because this is about the size that I take my family and friends when I'm doing sprouting ranunculus, because so everybody likes a beautiful flower, but maybe everybody doesn't like to go through the process. So I like these 9 count trays because then I can give the 9 count to them, and some of them I have to hound back for my stuff, meaning my 9 count trays. And I like these because they're washable, they're reusable. It's only one person that I do not have to hunt down for my vases, for my containers, for anything that I send over that's reusable and washable, unless it's a gift. It's only one person, and that is my neighbor, who brings my stuff back every single time. Everybody else, baby, I got to call and ask them, hey, where's my vase? I am still waiting on vases from last springtime. But I'm going to get off that rant, honey, because when I think about it, I'm like, okay, I might just start having to make them put down a security deposit. So these ranunculus right here will get bumped up into the 40 count, and then from there they go to the 15 count. And typically, depending on what type of weather we are having, they will stay in the 15 count until I pop them into containers or pop them outside in my garden. Because even though I just finished planting up a beautiful window box and some beautiful urns in the St. Louis region, we will dip down. So, fertilizer. Oh, and also, you guys, let's say if you have some ranunculus corms and you're excited, you do not want to wait to run out to the store and pick up some tin pans. You can use this method right here. So here we have our ranunculus corms. So when I pre-sprout my ranunculus, I like for my ranunculus corms to fit, the soil to fit from corner to corner. I don't like to have just soil in there with nothing in there, because I feel like that creates an environment for mold. So what I'll do is I will pull out one of these trays, and same thing right here, you guys. Can you see that? Okay, better. That's better. Like that. Okay, so what I'll do is I will go ahead and I will pop my ranunculus corms inside right here, just like we have here. Pre-sprout them, and then I will bump them up to the 40 count, and then from the 40 count to the 15 count, and then so on and so on. But as I start to get my care packages together, then this is what I'll be handing out. So with my fish fertilizer, we got to shake it again. I fertilized my ranunculus, my seedlings, my plants that I've started along, or that I'm forcing, because I force a lot of plants over here on Garden Queen, you guys. So when I am forcing, baby, this fish fertilizer is my best friend. So the only thing I do is I take a teaspoon and I put it inside of my bucket of water, and then I water them. I like to put it up underneath inside of the container here. So I use one of these numbers, a tray. So I like to put it in a tray and let it soak itself up. But because it has already rained, that's overkill. So I'm going to be watering directly from on top. So let's get to it. I use this, I don't measure. I just use a dab. And so I come in, I always wear gloves when I use different fertilizers. Even though they say it's organic, I just always use gloves. Okay. And you guys, this stuff stinks. So, it stinks. Okay, that's it. Like, I literally have, like, the smallest amount here in the bottom of my can. So, then the other thing too, you guys, is when I do this, whatever you don't use, you have to discard. I'll go in and I will pour it in a smaller container so it's more manageable. Kind of as a way to mix it as well. Alright, so let's lead with this. I'm going to come in. I'm going to pour off this excess water. And all of this is rainwater. Okay, cell for cell. And I'm just going to water them in a little bit. Okay, that's it, that's all. This is going to drain through. Once it drains through, then I'm going to pour out the excess water. Same thing here. All of this excess water I'm pouring off. For these seedlings, I am not going to fertilize these yet. I like to wait till they have a few leaves on them, and then I will go in and start giving them like a diluted, a very, very diluted. The first shot to be diluted. So it may be just to have a hint, but when you're using fish fertilizer, you don't have to worry about burning because it's organic. But I am going to go ahead and get all of these popped in, you guys. Talk about some amazing success. Like just every last one of these just have beautiful outcome. We have roots on almost all of them. Earlier, I had mentioned that the roots, everything comes from the top here. So here is the corm. Nothing is coming from the bottom of the corm. All of the growth and the magic happens from the top right here. So even though I don't have any green growth, you can definitely see I have some beautiful roots.